FMC Fast Chat takes you inside the news so you can be in the know in 30 minutes. Hosted by Fair Media Council CEO and Executive Director Jaci Clement, Fast Chat features notables in news, media, and business.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Jaci Clement, and joining me today is the editor-in-chief of the Wave newspaper, Mark Healey. Now, the Wave is celebrating 130 years of publishing. So first of all, congratulations, Mark, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Jaci. It's really amazing to be working for a publication that's been around for 130 years.
So tell me, how did you get to the Wave? What brought you there to begin with? Well,
it's really interesting. This is my 9th year. In May of next year, I'll be here 10 years. It was actually quite a journey. I began my career in radio, and I was working at a radio station up in Stamford, Connecticut. And along the way, I found myself at the Associated Press. I was there for 8 years. And then after a period of running my own business, which included a magazine, I started at the Wave in 2014 because I needed a job and the Wave was hiring. You know, it was one of those fortuitous things. The editor that had been here tried to buy the paper and wasn't successful, so he left and started his own newspaper, and it was a job waiting for me.
Oh, there you go. Well, congratulations, 9 years later. Tell me about the Wave itself.
Well, the Wave is Rockaway's newspaper since 1893. That's our tagline, because it's true. The Wave started because there was this major fire in the seaside section of Rockaway, which basically what happened is that there was this terrible fire, and the people of Rockaway weren't able to know about it or read about it because they were all waiting for the trains to come in to bring the Brooklyn papers to tell the story. So Mr. Keenan, who lived in Rockaway Beach, felt that it was time for Rockaway to have its own newspaper. So it was because of that, wave of fire that created the need for local news, and that started in 1893.
Okay, all right. And tell me about the paper today. You're a weekly.
Yeah, we're a weekly, and we've been going strong. The newspaper, basically what we do is we cover the entire peninsula, right? All the way from Far Rockaway, all the way to Breezy Point. And it also includes, Broad Channel, which is part of the Rockaways. We cover the entire peninsula, as I said. And so our coverage, while local and hyper-local at times, also includes a lot of political stuff that's going on, New York City issues that are going on, because it's important to understand that when decisions are made, on the state level, on the city level, they affect Rockaway directly. So, and because of Rockaway's uniqueness as a peninsula, they always kind of, people here basically feel like, they feel apart from the city.
Yeah.
And so they want a unique style of coverage to fit their uniqueness as a community. So that's what we strive to do each and every week, a comprehensive look at, what's going on in the community, what's going on outside the community that affects the community directly. So that's really our focus, on what we do here at the Wave.
Okay. And for our audience that isn't familiar with the Wave's area of coverage, can you give a little geography lesson there?
Well, we are on the southern tip, obviously, of New York City, of Queens. We are adjacent to Long Beach, which is below the island. We are, I guess, on the western end, underneath the peninsula of Long Island. And originally the Wave was known as the Wave of Long Island because at that time, Rockaway was part of was part of Long Island, Nassau County, not part of Queens or New York City proper. So if it's a coastal community, and like I said, we're right below Queens.
Okay. And the population?
The population has always hovered in the about. I would probably say if I had to, you didn't say this was going to be in the interview. I'm kidding.
Sorry, I don't mean to be quizzing you.
No, that was going to be on the test, Jaci. I would say our population is probably hovers around 170,000, between that 170, 160,000, something like that. I don't recall off the top of my head the count from the last census, but that's basically
Fair enough.
right around there.
Okay, fair enough, Mark. And tell me, what are the major concerns? What kind of stories do you find yourself doing over and over again? Because that's really what the public wants to know.
Well, it's interesting because of when I talk about the uniqueness of our community, we are a coastal community, so a beach community. So a lot of our stories have to do with climate change. A lot of our stories have to do with resiliency and protection from hurricanes. Sandy obviously happened 11 years ago, and it was devastating to this community. And so a lot of what we do is based around the beach, based around surfing and the arts. And we have a very, very vibrant art community. A lot of art, a lot of painters, a lot of musicians. We do a lot of live music coverage, but we also do a lot of the local community events. The parades, the schools that have different events. There's a lot of nonprofits that are around. That they do all these different kinds of community-based, family-based events, cultural events. We also do a lot of political coverage. We think it's important for people to know what's going on in the community. We want people to know that we're keeping an eye on the elected officials and making sure that they are responsive to their constituents and accountable to the community. We do a lot of everything. We have some sports that we do. This is a big, vibrant sports community. But we do pretty much everything that you would do at any other local. It's Rockaway, so it's a little bit cooler maybe than some other places.
Okay, that's not a biased opinion by chance, but is it?
Maybe a little. It's okay.
I imagine.
It's okay to be biased as long as you admit it.
Oh, okay. I imagine a lot of your readers are commuters into the city.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what do you consider, or even is there any competition for the news that you're putting out?
There's only one newspaper that is in the community. As I mentioned before, the editor that was here at the Wave opened up his newspaper. So that newspaper started basically about a month after I took over the Wave. It's called the Rockaway Times. And, they're very, very different from what we do. They're not very hard news. They do topical stuff, not really hard hitting, not really, it's competition really for, the economic dollar, more than anything else. They're a free paper. They get, given out, their distribution is much smaller, much more concentrated on the western end of the peninsula. And, we just do different things, but they are our competition in the sense that, they distribute in some of the areas that we do.
Okay. And what about any local radio coverage?
We don't, the only, there's no radio stations here or anything like that. There's nothing Rockaway centric, there are radio stations like WABC 77, Sid Rosenberg, who hosts Sid and Friends in the morning. That's a politically, that's a political show, big show. I think that it's the number one show, news talk in New York. And he's from Rockaway. He lives in Rockaway now, and he'll have me on, or he'll talk about Rockaway issues a lot, but it's not competition in any way.
Okay, got it. And since you had mentioned, tell me about your business model, as I am talking to news outlets across the country, and everyone is kind of playing with their business model so that there really is no model right now. It's kind of what works for one doesn't necessarily work somewhere else. So we're seeing a mix of, digital subscription based events to help pay the bills, maybe newsletters that they're charging for. So what is it you're doing?
Well, we have a daily newsletter that goes out every day. We have some other newsletters that we do that are focused, targeted towards day trippers, people who are coming in to Rockaway for the weekend. We have a newsletter that goes out every Friday to our subscribers. We have a paywall, so we have our paper's 50 cents a week, and we have digital subscriptions. We have a leaky paywall, so people can see a few stories a month. But we are a subscription based company. We do have a very healthy digital presence. We have a great team that works on our Instagram. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook, I should say X. We're on all the platforms. Our folk, we're very lucky. The Wave is a print newspaper that people read and people pick up every Friday on the newsstand. And we have, obviously thousands of subscribers that get mailed their newspaper, and it's all across the country. I mean, we have subscribers in San Diego, California. We have subscribers in Canada. So there's a lot of people that come from Rockaway that want to read about the Wave, and they want to read about their neighborhood and what they're missing. So we have a very, very, very loyal readership that always, gives back, by investing in what it is we do. And that is, comprehensive coverage. And, they're not getting it anywhere else, and so that's why, we're so driven every week to put together a great paper. Our front page still matters. What's on the front page? Is it going to sell? Those are the types of things that I'm very lucky that we have a crew and we have a team here that understands that the print product is the flagship and the digital stuff is gravy for us. And not to say we don't treat the digital stuff with respect, because we do, but the print product for us is the thing that we pride ourselves in, and everything else feeds off of that. So the quality of the work really extends itself, and it's really an organic relationship in that way.
I see. Tell me about the staff that you have. Are they a core group that have been there forever, or how does that work?
Well, when I first came to the Wave, there used to be an editor and there used to be an assistant, and there were mostly design people because we used to work on a different, system. We used to use Quark.
Okay.
Like so 2007. But
Does that even still exist anymore?
I'm sure it does. I'm sure there's some that might use it, but obviously InDesign is what everybody uses now.
Yeah.
We have a solid core of people that have been here for a long time. I've been here the longest. But we have the thing about the Wave, is that we have a core team that's been here for a long time, but we also have a lot of, especially editorial people, that come and go, because the Wave is one of those places, like when I'm trying to hire freelancers, because we like to have freelancers. We want to be able to cover everything that's going on. So what I tell them is there's no better place for a journal to begin their career, because you have so many different kinds of stories here. Rockaway is such a unique place. I mean, there's so many different things that you can write about. There's politics, as I've said, there's arts, there's entertainment, there's drama, local drama, that when there's things going on. There's so many traditions here culturally that people celebrate every year. So you get to experience, not only the different, you obviously you have Far Rockaway, which is, economically, a little, they're growing, but it's always been a community that has struggled economically. And then you have, the other tip of the iceberg is Breezy Point, which is much more affluent. So you really get a sense of, it's almost like a microcosm of New York City in and of itself. So as a journalist, you get to tell all those stories. You get to meet all these people. You get exposed to so many things that when someone leaves from here, they get jobs at the New York Times. They get jobs at bigger outlets. They get jobs, that really, really enhance their career. So, the freelancers that do hang on or they do stay for a while, and I'm very lucky that I have two or three that are really, really fantastic. They really care about the paper. They really care about the community, and it shows in their work, and it shows in how, when you pick up that paper on a Friday, that you sit there and you're like, wow, they covered that story. Oh, they covered that story. Oh, they were in this neighborhood. Oh, they were in that neighborhood. Oh, they went to that civic meeting. So it's incredibly important for whoever works here that they buy in to the mission. And the mission is, no story's too small, and our team has really bought into that.
Okay. So tell me about your editorial process then. Do the story ideas, do they bubble up from the staff, or is it assignment editor?
There is a very nice, healthy mix of that.
Okay.
I have one freelancer in particular that is always pitching, probably 4 or 5 stories a week. I have others that are always say yes to whatever assignments or whatever things that need to be covered. As the editor-in-chief, obviously, I have to make sure that we're not missing out on anything. But I'm lucky in the sense that the people that I've been working with for so long know what I want covered, or they know to keep their ears to the ground, literally and figuratively, to find out if there's any story that needs to be in the paper or needs to be on the website or needs to be, sent out in a newsletter. So let's put it this way. We're never like bottom feeding to try to get a story. We always have more than enough space. We always have to find space every week for all the stories that we're doing. So it's never a question of, oh man, I have all this open space this week. No, it doesn't happen that way. Usually I have to, sit there and figure out, well, what's going to fit where, and do I do the longer version of the story and put a QR code in so that people can read it on the website. But it's a combination really of the writers pitching things. Sometimes the publisher or the marketing people will say, hey, we got this new restaurant opening up. Maybe we can assist them with a story or, those kinds of things. But it's really a balance of assignments and people pitching things.
Okay. All right. And how big of a staff is there in-house total for the whole paper?
Well, we have 3 office people that work with, they assist they basically work as, some people work on advertising, some people work on, accounting, and we have like a 3-person staff that all work on a lot of our office administration stuff that needs to be done. We have a marketing staff of 3 people. We have an editorial staff of, I'm in the process now of looking for a new community editor, but usually we have 3 full-time people and a large staff. I'm talking editorially now. We have a lot of staff, freelancers. So we probably have around 5 or 6 at the same time. But that number can change, over the course of, the summers are busy time as far as outdoor events and things like that. But as the, tourists go back to where they came from, there's still people that live here year round. And that's when a lot of the meetings take place. A lot of the community board stuff happens then. We have precinct, the NYPD. We have 2 precincts here. They have community council meetings that we always cover. So, we need that kind of staff to keep up with, all the things that are going on.
Okay. One of the things I'm hearing from papers around the country is they're finding it really hard to hire people because they can't seem to find journalists these days. Are you running into that issue?
I'm not running into the issue of being able to find journalists. I'm running into the problem of people who understand what it means to be a journalist. Like there's plenty of people that apply for the job. It's not a question of, applicants. It's a question of finding the people that understand that, you can't do an interview, that you can't do an interview of a local event, live event from, your phone. You can't,
Okay.
pick stuff up off of Facebook. All of the challenges that we went through during COVID with Zoom and everything else. I mean, sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it's not. And now, look, and I think the problem is, it's not so much it's not so much the young journalists themselves. I think a lot of it is where they're coming from, where they're learning this industry from. And I think the expectation level is unrealistic. I think that they're not teaching them the industry. I think they're teaching them theoretical things and, the inverted pyramid and they're teaching them all of these. And I taught journalism, so I know what's being taught and I fought against a lot of it. So, I know a lot of the curriculum that a lot of them are learning, and it's great to have all this technical know-how, and it's great to be able to, be a 360 journalist where you're tweeting and you're, doing live video, but you still have to write the stories. You still have to take the pictures, and you still have to talk to people, and you still have to make phone calls, and you can't sit around the office and wait for the phone to ring to find a story. So it's an exhaustive process, but for me, the problem isn't finding applicants. It's finding people that I trust to do the job, because that's, it's a responsibility.
Right. Fair enough. Okay. And tell me about, do you write editorials?
Do I write editorials? Yes, I do.
Mhm. Okay. So that's your responsibility, or you share that with folks? How does that work?
Really share that. I will be, I believe I will be, once I find, I have in the past, but I also think that it's important for the journalists that are writing the stories. I don't think it's always so great for them to do editorials, because I think that we're trying to get away from biased reporting. We're trying to get away from, activism journalism. We don't do that. Like I said, I learned how to be a journalist at the Associated Press. So I am not a we and us journalist. And I believe that, you have to be really focused on the story and the issues. And you have to look at, and a lot of people don't think that objective journalism is the way to go. I'm not one of those people. Sometimes, you have to tell a story. You have to give other people a chance to respond. You have to have resources to a story. And as being, and I don't cover as many stories because of that reason, because I'm writing the editorial every week, and I want to make
Mhm.
sure what we're writing about, that it doesn't look like I'm writing a objective story about something, and then I'm writing an editorial where I take a side or I take, offense to an issue or something along those lines. So I like to keep those lines clear of each other as much as I can.
Okay. As this is an issue that I know is being talked about in a lot of news outlets because they do feel that, if they do come down on an issue in one way, then they find their audience views their news coverage in some way is biased or leaning toward
Oh,
that opinion.
absolutely.
So,
Letters every excuse me, I get letters every week saying, "Oh, your paper's too liberal," and then I'll get another letter from somebody, "Oh, your paper's too conservative." So that just tells me we're doing a good job.
there you
And
go.
and honestly, I that's why I think that what we do as journalists, as editors, as newspaper people, it's so important to be truthful. It's so important to not have an agenda. It's so important to be honest with your, readership. And, if there's an issue that we need to take a stand on, we'll take a stand on it. And I always invite people, say, look, if you think our paper's too liberal, here's 15 stories that tell a different tale. If you think our paper's too conservative, here's 15 stories that you can read and say, oh yeah, maybe I guess not, maybe I'm wrong. And it's not that we're trying to be centrist. It's just that there's that side of the story, there's the other side of the story, and somewhere in the middle lies the truth.
Okay. Okay. So what is it that keeps you going every day?
I just love my job.
Yeah.
I mean, things can get busy, things can get chaotic, but I love what I do. So I get up every day and I'm ready to go.
Okay. How would you describe the wave 130 years ago versus where it is now?
Well, we've gone through some changes as far as, we used to be a broadsheet, we used to come out on a Thursday. We used to come out on a Saturday. But I think the focus is still the same. Tell the story of the neighborhood. Let people know what's going on. I think the biggest difference, obviously, is the digital reach, which enhances what we do. Because
Okay.
Wave is one of those newspapers that the industry likes. And we have a lot of people that I run into at a press conference or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, the Wave! Oh, I know the Wave. Rockaway's great." And there's nothing better than hearing that. When you know that your paper is making an impact. And we do our share of breaking news. We do our share. Again, we do our share of breaking stories and making sure that we are on the cutting edge of everything that happens. But as far as the job, as far as doing what we do, really hasn't changed that much.
Okay. And do you live locally?
I don't actually, which is always very curious to people. I believe I am the first editor in 130 years. When they hired me in 2014, I believe I was the first editor in chief to not live in Rockaway.
Okay.
And it was, one of those things that said, how could you, cover Rockaway if you'd, never been in Rockaway? I said, well, I covered tennis when I was at the Associated Press, and I don't know anything about tennis. So I was like, it's journalism. I said, give me 2 weeks, and if I don't know what I'm doing, then you can get rid of me. And my dad grew up. Grew up in Rockaway, and I have a lot of family and friends here. In fact, a lot of the people where I grew up in Flatbush, Brooklyn,
Okay.
live now out on the island. But I grew up in Flatbush. So it just seems that I run into people all the time that came from my neighborhood that moved to Rockaway, because there was a whole flux of them that did so in the 80s. So I'm always running into people that I know. So, and then I think had people, because I remember one of my friend's dads said, you're going to have a tough time here because they don't trust outsiders. And I was like, I'm not really an outsider. I mean, I spent all my summers here. It's not like I don't know Rockaway. I said, my dad grew up here. It's like, yeah, but you're not from here, so they're going to give you some pushback. And I got to be honest, outside of maybe a couple of people writing letters to the editor in the very beginning, which I printed, being concerned that the new editor wasn't from Rockaway, it actually gained their respect. One guy said, "I can't believe you printed that letter," and I'm like, "Well, you wrote it, and that's how you feel. So, I wanted you to feel like you had a voice." And I think over the years, I've heard less and less about that. Oh, well, you're not from Rockaway, so you don't really understand. I feel like one of the first calls I got when I joined the Wave was from Donovan Richards, who is now the Queensborough president. And at that time, he was the city councilman for the 21st district. And he called the 31st district, excuse me. And he called me up and he said, "Congratulations on getting the job. I think it's great that you're not from Rockaway because you don't have any, predisposition to the issues, and you can look at things with a fresh eye." And
Okay.
I always remind him of that whenever he gets mad at me when I, criticize him on something. But, and that's the thing, and I think that's what I've been able to bring to the Wave, is a little bit more of an objective look at what Rockaway needs, what ails Rockaway, and what Rockaway can do to move forward.
Okay. All right. We're actually at time already. I've got one more question for you.
Sure.
And that is, if you were talking to local news outlets around the country, what advice would you give them at this moment in time where so much news coverage is devoted to talking about how local news is dying?
Well, look, there's I talk to people all the time that are in this business, and I say the same thing. Do you want to be part of the crowd that's, worried about, look, media is always in flux. Every media outlet is struggling, and some are doing very well. And the thing is that you have to be true to what you do. You just got to push forward. You can't be deluded when, some of the organizations you may belong to talk about, oh, well, I read this story about how print is this and print is that. Remember when everybody said nobody was going to buy books anymore? And then all of a sudden people wanted bookshelves on Instagram so that ebooks, it used to, how that whole ebook trend, it's not that people don't buy ebooks anymore, but people are buying regular books again. The industry changes. Things are cyclical. As long as you don't buy into either the dread or the delusion, and you just continue to do what you do and make good choices about, stay away from clickbait. If you think clickbait is going to be the way that you is going to be, that low hanging fruit clickbait kind of news that you think is going to generate clicks, it's just, what? That's a slow death. And I see it. People just will lose trust. When you're a community paper, when you're a local paper, you have to prove it every week that you're on top of things, that you're going to the meetings, that you're interviewing the right people, that you're making people know what's going on. Because if you do that, people will continue to buy into your product. And if they don't, because you've made some decisions for the quick money or the quick fix, it's just never going to help you in the long run.
The Fair Media Council is a 501c3 nonprofit organization advocating for quality news and working to create a media-savvy society. For more information about the Fair Media Council and upcoming Fast Chat shows, check out fairmediacouncil.org.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.